When people think of digital entrepreneurs, this is what they expect. But the reality is actually quite different. Although I have the flexibility to work anytime, anywhere, those dream pictures that we saw of working by the beach or traveling around in a camper van, they're just a very tiny part of my life. Most days I'm actually in Singapore, working really hard on my business and other projects. Hi, I'm Angela, digital entrepreneur and creator for this growing channel. In this video, I'm going to show you what my typical week is actually like and how the best practices from my other videos play out in real life. Because most days, I just tend to adjust or adapt them as I go along. During the wrap-up at the end, we'll make it easier for you to extract the takeaways for you to design your own week. To set the context, things are just a little bit crazy for me right now. I own a digital business, Reading Graphics, which produces visual summaries for non-fiction books. In the last 9 months, the team more than doubled, which means more coaching, management and integration on top of the new initiatives that we are driving. And that's over and above my own work, plus starting this channel. I really had to force myself to sit down, plan out my priorities, and allocate my time and energy very carefully. This is my ideal week at the moment, and it's already my 3rd iteration this year. Basically, I want to block out time for the key people in my life and for myself to rest, play, and recharge. I also want to set aside time for focused work hours to drive the key aspects of my business. I need time for my own day-to-day work and to create content for you here at GrowthGarden. This is just a planner to give me a clear idea of how much time I can actually set aside for each priority so I can be very deliberate about where I direct my energy for each window. In my other videos, I share my formula for work-life integration, time and energy management. Still, knowing the ideal and actually doing it isn't the same thing. So how did my week turn out compared to the ideal plan? Let's find out. Along the way, I may touch on key ideas from my other videos. If you need more details, the links can be found in the description as well as the suggested videos on the upper right. Happy Monday! So I find it useful to start each day with a morning routine. That's especially crucial on Monday to kick off the week properly. I'm currently using a 15-minute adaptation of Tony Robbins' priming ritual. So after washing up, I start with some breathing exercises, followed by emotional priming. That's where I take 3 minutes to think about what I'm grateful for, and another 3 minutes to visualize infinite intelligence, or God if you wish, flooding me with healing power in all aspects of my life. I take 1 more minute to feel what it's like to accomplish what I want for the day. Then I get my blood flowing with a short burst of intense exercise. So within 30 minutes from waking up, I'm now ready to start my actual day. In another video, I explained the Go Zone, which is basically time set aside for deliberate, focused work. Before I enter the Go Zone, I take some light, whole foods, clean up my workspace to remove clutter and distractions. Okay, we are all set for the Go Zone. So I've got everything that I need for this session. I'm gonna set the time for 2 hours. I'm gonna hide the phone. Okay. Whew, let's go. On Sunday nights, I already have roughly planned out what I want to achieve for the following week. About 80% will be set aside for operational work and 20% for high payoff items that might create breakthroughs in my life and business. My Monday Go Zones are devoted to the 20%. Today, I have a weekly meeting scheduled with my content manager, Marian, to talk through stuff for both GrowthGarden and Reading Graphics. After that, it's a short lunch break. I live on top of a mall, so it's kind of easy to pop down and just grab a bite. After lunch, I continue to work for about 3 hours at a cafe at a cruise mode. That's when I still get work done, but I don't push myself with the same intensity as the Go Zone earlier. I reviewed some Reading Graphics content and followed up on some emails and project items. Then I head home for another 3 hours of work. By late afternoon, my energy is flagging a bit, so I add a mix of active and passive energy renewals in between work sprints. For today, I work for an hour, run on the spot, work again, take a power nap, back to work, followed by a light snack. By the way, I really love frozen mangoes as a healthy snack. They are sweet and cold, just like ice cream, but not quite as simple. By evening, I still had a lot of backlog to clear, but I was already feeling a bit sluggish. This time, I decided to give my body a slight push by doing a 15-minute workout. Then I took a stroll down to get dinner. I chose a salad bowl from the kebab store, which is relatively clean and whole, that gives my body some solid nourishment. After dinner, I continued with some more administrative work until almost 11 PM before I start to wind down. So this is one of my more extreme days when I went all the way. I did get a lot done, but I don't recommend doing it too often. And oops, instead of really winding down, I'm just playing with my phone. The ideal should be to put away the phone 2 hours before bed. Oh well, I'll just make up for it with a short visualization and breathing exercise. It's Tuesday morning and that's badminton morning. This This is like 3 things in one for me: couple time, exercise, and no zone where I totally switch off from work. It's always easier to stop thinking about work when I'm immersed in activities that I enjoy, and we'll talk about this later in the video. After brunch at the food court, I get some light work done, mainly emails, summaries, and project updates from the team members. Taking a nap really helps me with my post-exercise fatigue to restore my energy before I move into more demanding work. Since I only have a couple of hours per week to drive each key business function, I must really make it count. These work sessions aren't as intensive as the goal zones, but I still devote them to high payoff items. Tuesday afternoons are set aside for reading graphics content. In between, I had a series of meetings, starting with SEO and content planning, then discussions on our customer engagement initiatives, which I kind of brought forward from Wednesday, and finally, interviewing potential team members. Yes, we're still growing. So between those sessions and post-meeting follow-ups, the day's almost over just like that. And it's time to wind down over a nice meal. As usual, I kick off my day with a short morning routine. Then it's time for my goal zone. Today, the focus is on reading graphics, quarterly OKRs, and our tech initiatives, including our UX revamp and mobile app. After a short break, it's time to work on GrowthGarden, and I switched to a cafe for a change of environment. This was supposed to take 4 hours, but I ended up spending all the way until evening on video content. To be honest, this channel has been consistently taking up more time than I intended, and it's been eating into my other work priorities. After 6 months, we're still trying to refine our processes to make it all work. Anyway, after a full day of sitting rooted to a chair, I'm so ready to move. It's time to go for a run. Okay, so that was 5 kilometers. It's a normal run. Then it's time for a wholesome dinner with lots of vegetables, meats, and seafood. Though I also gave in to some junk food craving as well. But my day is still not over. I continue to work on GrowthGarden content. And this month, we invited some reading graphics customers to share some feedback with us before I can call it a night. So I woke up really tired today. For some reason, I didn't sleep well last night. Maybe it was the late night call. It triggered a lot of ideas. So my mind was very active, and I think I slept maybe 2 hours the whole night. Well, whatever the reason, my brain is feeling kind of fuzzy right now, so even the morning routine didn't really help. So I thought about it and I decided that I'm really not in the state of mind for a goal zone this morning. So since I'm meeting my daughter Adele later, I'm just gonna do a swap with Saturday and make today a chill day instead. For the morning, I met a business friend for coffee at the mall downstairs. I guess it's just as well that we scheduled this today. I tied up some random tasks and household chores at home, and then I set out to meet Adele for lunch. So on days like this, I remember how lucky I am not to have to spend time traveling to and from work each day. Lunch was teppanyaki beef and codfish. These are still whole foods. After that is our mother-daughter bonding time. Some days we plan stuff like art jamming or bouldering, but we didn't plan anything specific for today. The two of us enjoy weird things like walking long distances for no reason at all. So after lunch, we decided to walk 2.5 kilometers all the way to a Japanese cafe to chill. I was reading an ebook and replying to some emails while she did some digital drawing and read a book. We had a dinner nearby. I always love a good sashimi salad, and somehow today turned out to be a Japanese food day. After that, we walked 2.5 kilometers back. So in a way, I had both my rest and exercise for the day, but there were no real highs or lows, and I could feel both my mind and body just drifting along in cruise mode. I was neither hyped up nor exhausted. Happy Friday! I'm back in action today. I'm supposed to do a goal zone for reading graphics marketing, but there's so much backlog and loose ends from yesterday that I feel a bit fragmented right now. And since my boyfriend had some time before his meeting, I decided to switch things around. We end up having breakfast at McDonald's where I organized my headspace a little bit. That's followed by meetings on social media strategy and review, and some pre-development discussions with the tech team. Then it's time for another change of environment. And there, I managed to cover 4 hours of work straight, including the stuff originally intended from the marketing goal zone in the morning. So it's getting a bit late and we decided to drive out for dinner. We had some local prawn noodle and chicken chop, which I guess tastes okay, but the main thing was the live music, which makes the experience so much better. So today turned out to be pretty productive. Having said that, although I covered my priority areas, my own operational work has fallen really far behind. So after we got back, I continued to work until after midnight. As a digital entrepreneur, weekends aren't really a big deal for me. In fact, I actually prefer to go out on weekdays because it's less crowded and there are a lot more weekday meal promotions. So anyway, I'm perfectly happy to make Saturday a full work day, especially since Thursday was a chill day. But I allowed myself to wake up naturally without an alarm clock today because I sensed that my body needed some rest, and I ended up waking up at 9:40 a.m. We had a leisurely brunch at the food court, followed by some casual work. Then it was a short walk to the library nearby. So times like these, I feel really grateful for how accessible everything is in Singapore. I move around on foot most days, and that doubles up as a form of simple exercise for me. For the first part of the afternoon, I locked myself in a booth to catch up on focus work. After a while, I shifted to another location which is equally conducive. The movement and slight environmental shift helps to change up the energy a bit. Or if I'm feeling really tired, I may just close my eyes for a while and rest. After a while at the library, I took a break for lunch since it was between lunch and dinner, and I continued working for a while at the food centre. Yeah, you probably realised by now that I can whip out my computer like virtually any time and start working. After that intermission at the food centre, it's back to a different part of the library. Then I head back home because it's time to record my weekly video for this channel. This was supposed to happen yesterday, but I swapped it with some tasks on the fly. And since I barely exercise, I squeeze in some light exercises at home before having an equally light and clean dinner. Sundays are usually kept flexible in case there are plans. I spend the late morning and early afternoon on focused work, but not overly intensive. By afternoon, I transitioned into a more reflective mode and started to take stock of the week and let my mind wander. I decided to reward myself with some chocolate ice cream to wrap up the week. Yeah, you can never go wrong with chocolate. We were originally planning to hit the gym, but we got lazy and settled for a stroll instead along the marina. And with that, the week is a wrap. Am I happy with my week? Was it on par with my expectations? Overall, the actual week was quite far from the ideal. If you have seen my other videos on energy management and productivity, you might recognize glimpses of those elements in my week. But you'll also notice that I didn't follow them to the T. Each of those systems and formulas work really well, but in the end, they're just a means to an end. Instead of strictly applying them like a template, I prefer to internalize the ideas and then combine and adapt them to suit my unique circumstances. In any case, it's impossible to maintain a perfect routine all the time. Even if I'm super disciplined for a few weeks, just going on a trip will totally break that rhythm. But does that mean that I had a bad week? Not necessarily. I evaluate my week broadly at 3 levels. Let's do this together. First, my priorities. Did I achieve what I set out to do? Am I satisfied with the outcomes? Ultimately, this is about whether I've directed my time and energy to what really matters to me. As we saw at the start of this video, my current workload is kind of crazy by most people's standards right now. Most days I work 12 to 18 hours at relatively high intensity. But the most important question is, do I feel good about how I've used my time and energy? Let's return to the original plan that I had for myself. Quality time with people close to me. I didn't cover every relationship this week, but I did set aside time and energy for deliberate interactions. I guess if I want to be even more intentional, I could have picked up the phone to call my parents or my close friends instead of just messaging them. To be honest, I only checked off about half of the items on my to-do list, and I'm seriously behind for my operational work. But if I look at the big picture, my larger priorities are to drive the strategic parts of my businesses, to streamline my work and develop talents and systems to free myself up from operational work. Now from that perspective, I did okay, so check. Did I get enough rest, find time to relax and enjoy myself, take care of my health and improve myself in general? On hindsight, Thursday would have been more enjoyable and rejuvenating if I had something fun planned out in advance. But overall, I enjoyed my week. I had some chill out time, some nice food and exercise. So again, check. And there's one really important thing to remember. For me personally, work doesn't always feel like work. I enjoy reading and learning from books, and I get really excited about integrating ideas, talents, and resources to solve problems. It's actually very fun working on reading graphics and GrowthGarden because I'm actively learning and experimenting in the process. And that's the great thing about doing something that you love, because you're integrating work and life, and everything you do ends up serving multiple objectives. Time for the overall rating. I'll give 8.7 out of 10 for my priorities, but I think I broadly addressed the areas that mattered. Next, the environment. Was I living in a good environment throughout the week? Let's start with physical environment. In an ideal world, I should be working in a controlled environment for my goal zones, like a corner of my house free from distractions. In reality, I prefer to camp outside in cafes and even the food court. Those spaces come with natural distractions, though I can still focus well if I choose a quiet corner, ideally with natural light. I plug in my earphones and I match the energy of the location with my task. Besides the physical environment, our mental emotional space also matters. That's why it's important to have a good morning ritual and to surround yourself with positive people and ideas. Because those words and feelings seep into us and affect us both directly and indirectly. I'm grateful that my work surrounds me with ideas from great leaders and thinkers. But if you're working in an office or regularly engaged in social media, it helps to take stock of what you're absorbing day in and day out. Anyway, for this week, I'll give my environment a rating of 8.1. Third, self-care. Did I take good care of my mind, body, and spirit? This is actually a function of several things. In an ideal world, I'm sleeping 8 hours a day, having a perfect exercise regime, eating only clean and whole foods, surrounded by joy and laughter, and anchoring my day with positive self-talk and visualization. In reality, I had some sleepless nights, some exercise, a decent morning routine, and a terrible bedtime routine. Food-wise, I eat out all the time, and I love my sweets and pastries. Where possible, I make an effort to choose whole foods with less oil and sodium. And in a typical day, I try to have at least one meal that's heavy in vegetables and fiber. So did I take good care of myself? Honestly, I'll give it just 7 out of 10. So overall, my week was very far from perfect and I fell short in several areas, but I'm happy with it. Because in the end, life doesn't have to be perfect. Priorities and productivity formulas are all tools to help us to live a more fulfilling life. I sometimes get upset at myself for missing a target or for not checking all the boxes. I forgot that these are all self-imposed in the first place. So I like to give myself a pat on the back for doing my best given the circumstances. Good job, Angela. How about you? How did your week go? What are the top 3 things for you that can convert a meh week into a great one? Share your thoughts in the comments and feel free to check back on this video to build a system that works for you. We have compiled all our videos on energy management and productivity, including this one, in our playlist. So do check it out and give yourself a great week ahead. I'll see you in those videos.